up, everyone? I'm Tim. Today I'm going to show you how I built a homemade saddle for free with things that I already had laying around the house that I've used for the last 2 years. Just as a brief introduction, I'm a brand new bow hunter. I'm a first generation hunter, so I've never had mentorship or family generation knowledge passed on to me. So everything that I've learned over the last 2 years has been self-taught, by asking questions, going on YouTube, listening to podcasts, and of course, practicing in the field. I'm someone that once I start something new, I didn't want to put down a $2,000 or $3,000 investment in equipment. So everything I started with has been truly do it yourself. The first time that I ever went hunting was on my friend's farm. He had a platform and a saddle. He basically was like, yep, feel free to use this, showed me how to climb up a tree, how to set it up, and then I was off to the races. After he showed me the saddle system, I was like, this is absolutely perfect, because primarily the land that I'm hunting is going to be public land. So I wanted to make sure that I could be mobile, that I had a system that I could throw on my back. My years of outdoor exploration and adventure had really set me up for a system like this. I like being mobile. I like going on an adventure. I like being able to use my fitness to hunt. And this system I found to be most affordable and most mobile system that fit for me specifically. So I'm going to show you my saddle that I set up, how I built it, and one of my friends who just started archery about 8 months ago, he is gearing up for his first season whitetail hunting. And he's like me, he's first generation. He doesn't have private land to set up permanent stands on. So he wants to go the mobile route. And based on my calculation, based on the saddle, which I believe that you can build for probably under $50 if you're utilizing Facebook Marketplace or have some of the gear available, maybe even cheaper. But really, my entire setup, I probably invested under probably under $100 to get started, and I've been using it for 2 years. I made some adjustments this year and going to build him a saddle. Again, this is not something that I'm advising. I'm just showing you what I've done and how I built it and how it served me, even after trying my friend's saddle. I can attest that this saddle that I've built is debatably more comfortable and more adjustable for not only walking in the field, but actually sitting in the tree as well. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the ropes, quite literally. And if you're new to hunting, maybe these are some ideas that you can use to get started on a budget. All right, so here is my saddle. It is made out of primarily a rock climbing harness, which is used for the safety and hold. It is made out of tethered rope, which is attached to the climbing harness, as well as an old safety tree stand harness that has some straps. So I'm going to put this on. I'm going to show you what it's like, how it works, and some of the functionality. And then I'm going to go into building a new one from scratch, so you can see exactly the things that you either need to buy or that you have laying around that you can use for these types of adjustments. I'm just in my workshop here. I'm just going to show you the system as well as everything that you are able to either buy or make to make this system complete. So again, here is the rock climbing harness that I've put together, that I've been using. Again, this thing is foolproof. It's a little bit wonky getting on, but really not harder than any of the saddles that you can buy. So I'm putting the rock climbing harness on right over my legs, making sure that my legs are relatively tight and my hips are tight. I've thrown this on over snow pants and full winter gear. And then I have this rope here in front that is attached by carabiners, just to make sure that that tether or that rope is not hanging. I like to make sure that everything is really tight and compact as I'm walking around. I always put this saddle on with my gear in the morning and walk out to the stand with it on. So it's not something that I'm putting in my backpack and then putting on right before I get there. But essentially, this is it. So again, it is a rock climbing harness. And then I have a old tree stand safety harness that I'm using as the butt protector, and I'm using the actual tether string. So I have the ability to sit back, but also I can adjust it from the rock climbing harness. So I'm going to have, instead of having just one point of connection to the tree, I actually have two. And having 2 points of connection makes it even more adjustable. The first thing here, I have a lineman's rope, which I'm going to show you exactly how to make, but I'm able to essentially bring this around the tree. Let's just say this pole is a tree. I attach it with a locking carabiner to my rock climbing harness. And then I have a prusik knot that I made out of more climbing rope that's a little bit thinner because you want to make sure that it locks as you pull. And I'm able to take that prusik knot, lock it into my carabiner, and now I'm able to lean back with the climbing harness. And if I want to get it tighter, I just bring that prusik knot up, and I'm able to climb up the tree, putting either sticks in or steps in, if you're able to have screw-ins, and work my way up the tree, putting the saddle and or putting the platform in as well. So once I get to the top, I now have my full rope that I'm actually going through. It's just like the lineman's rope, and I go through the loop to keep it tight and secure to the tree. And then I lock in 2 different locations. I did buy this because I feel like it's very useful and quick. It's about, I think, $65, but you can just have 2 prusik knots. But essentially, the first knot, or the first prusik knot, is going to be going with a locking carabiner into my tether. Again, now I can slide this up and I can sit back just like anything else. I'm sliding on this pole here, but I can sit back and I can really relax into it. But for extra safety precaution, I also like to be locked into 2 different places. So I'm also locked into my climbing harness. And not only is this obviously safer because I'm locked into 2 different areas, but it also allows me to adjust this to really any type of comfortability, which is something that's actually different than most saddles out there because you're normally just locked into one spot. So because I'm locked into 2 spots, I can bring this up to be extra high but still leaning back, and I'm able to bring my legs up or down based on the comfortability. Essentially, this is the full setup. It's really comfortable, really adjustable. You can see it from the back. And then also with the climbing harness, you're able to, take different carabiners. I lock, my sticks and my platform onto this when I'm climbing the tree. And it allows me to be really stealthy and, have an easy access of going up and down. And then again, like I said, I want to make sure that that rope is out of my way. So a lot of times I'm taking these carabiners and locking them on here just to make sure that if I'm hiking in the woods, it's not getting caught on anything. This definitely is extremely comfortable. You could be going on a jog in this and you would never know the difference. So that's a little bit about the setup in itself. Like I said, you could use 2 prusik knots here, but this is something that I did invest in just because I like the quickness and efficiency, and especially during that initial setup period. So let's go back to the table. I'm going to show you actually how to build this thing as we put one together for one of my friends who's getting into hunting. All right, so first things first, we need to get out a list of things that we need. It's really going to be simple, but first we need a rock climbing harness. This is my girlfriend's climbing harness, which is why it's pink. The great thing about this is that you can take everything off the climbing harness and still use it as a climbing harness. I'm not an amazing rock climber by any means, but I do have a harness because I do enjoy it as a passive hobby. And you're going to need rope. Again, I am a hobbyist rock climber, but I do have a set of lead rope here. So you're going to need some type of rope. Climbing rope is not necessary by any means, but it's great rope because it's smooth enough that it doesn't stick around the trees, and has just a little bit of flexibility that allows you to have a little bit of bounce when sitting in the saddle, so it makes it really comfortable. You don't have to use climbing rope by any means, but you can go to your local store, get rope. Just make sure that the strength of it is enough to support you. And by enough, I mean hundreds and hundreds of pounds more than your actual body weight, in case you do take a fall. And then lastly, you're going to need rope that has a smaller diameter than your climbing rope, because a prusik knot, how it works, it's a tension knot, and it needs to make sure that it grasps on. If it's the same thickness, it doesn't grasp on nowhere near tight enough. So I have this rope that is skinnier, and then I also have this rope that I'm going to be using as that tether as well. And then the last thing, you need to find something that you're going to use as the almost like meshing in a saddle to sit around your waist to support your butt and back. So today I have this aider. I bought it because I thought I was going to use it. It's a 3-step aider. I think I got it on Amazon for $16. Too big for me. I'm relatively short, so I can't even use a 3-step aider if I hook up to a tree because I can't get the sticks high enough up. So this is basically just junk material for me. But as you can see, they have full loops here, and then obviously these are reinforced. It's really strong. It's really sturdy. It can hold, several 100 pounds. So this is actually going to be the back, or it's going to be the saddle portion of this. So I'm going to convert this into really the saddle portion of the harness. One thing to note too, if you don't rock climb, but you're looking for a rock climbing harness, every time I go on Facebook Marketplace, I see these for 10-20 bucks at most, and then you can buy new harnesses for 50-60 bucks. You definitely don't need top of the line. This is a pretzel harness. The one that I was using, I believe, is Black Diamond. They're great harnesses for climbing. They do the trick. They're not top of the line, but they're also not they're name brand. They're not bottom of the line either. They're not an expensive investment by any means, but Facebook Marketplace I'd highly recommend. Just make sure that they fit your hips and waist. This one's going to be a little bit tighter just because it's my girlfriend and she's got a skinnier waist than I do. So let's get started. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start, and we need to create some loops for the prusik knots. What I do is I basically cut a certain length of string, and then I do a double fisherman's knot. I'm going to link the tutorial of how to do the double fisherman's knot because there's going to be people that teach it much better than I do. But essentially, you're going across, you're tying a knot on one hand, it goes through. We got one fisher or one knot, and then we do the other on the other end, around, and then through. So we got 2 knots like this, and as you pull them together, they make an incredibly tight loop. All right, so that is step 1, is you need to make 3 loops that you're able to now use as prusik knots. I don't have just loops, so I make my own out of just rope that I had at my house. So I've created a couple of these out of this. Now I need to create my lineman's rope and rope that attaches to the tree that allows me to adjust up and down. So I'm going to show you how to do this, what length to cut, and how to tie the loops necessary. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut two different ropes. We need the lineman's rope, which I have a smaller loop on this end, a prusik knot, as well as a catcher, which is a double knot. In case it loses tension and falls, it doesn't, you don't fall completely off. And then obviously the main rope, I have a bigger loop on this one, so I can go around and bring all of this through. So I'm connected to the tree. So I like this one with a little bit of a bigger knot. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut two ropes. One of them I want to cut at about 9 feet. The other one I wanna cut at about 12 feet. It's always better to go a little bit longer than to go too short because you can always just cut some extra off. I want to make sure that the lineman's rope is long enough that it's can go around both the skinny trees as well as fat trees without having just too much slack at the end. I don't want this thing, 12 feet long and then having an extra 3 feet that I got to carry around. I want to be as efficient as possible, but also make sure to manage some like bigger trees. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the lineman's rope. We're going to cut the rope at about 9 feet or a little bit longer just to be safe. We're going to start with the loop end because this one takes a little bit more slack. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have it out here. I'm going to make this measurement from my arm to my armpit. I'm going to have the tutorial linked in another video, but I create a loop. I go around and then through. And what that does is it creates this like figure 8. This is a classic climbing knot, but I'm going to put my hand here and I'm basically going to follow that string back through. So it goes 1, and I'm just following that string all the way back through, all the way back. And what it should look like at the end is that I want a little bit of a tail that might be a little bit short, but I have 10 pieces, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then a loop. So this will connect here. Then at the very end of this rope, I'm going to do a double knot. It's pretty simple, but I need a little bit of slack. I go around once, I go around twice, and then I go through both of these, creating a double knot. Again, this is so if the prusik loses tension, you don't lose it all the way at the end, and this can save you. And then finally, we're going to take that loop that I created before, and we're actually going to create the prusik knot on here. Again, I'm going to send this in a tutorial for people that are better at demonstrating how to do these knots. But all I basically do is I lay it on the rope. I go through 3 times, making that tension. And then on the 3rd time, I go through here, creating this knot. This prusik knot, it's a tension knot. So if it slides down or you put a tension in, it gets tighter. And what that does now is that this end, I clip in, I go around the tree, and I clip in the prusik knot. If I need it wider, I slide that prusik down, and I climb up and down that tree with this. Boom. There's the lineman's rope. Okay, now we're moving on to the main rope. This one, I want to make sure that the loop is bigger. This way, when I'm climbing up a tree and I'm setting this up, if I need to reach around, I grab that. This goes all the way through, and then I have this around the tree, and I'm able to have my prusik knots down here, locking me in. So I like a little bit bigger of a loop on this one, and this one also to be a little bit longer as well. I'm going to be cutting this at around 12 feet because sometimes I like to, if I'm not packing up for that evening, but I want to either go to the bathroom or leave it up there, I just basically belay down this rope rather than taking the steps or making a bunch of noise like climbing off the platform and then down the tree. So having this one a little bit longer, though that adds some weight, makes it pretty efficient for getting down, especially just for a break or a quick move if you're going to keep that platform there. We need to cut another rope. What I'm going to do is I cut this rope. I need to make sure that I burn the end to make sure that it is really losing any threads. I'm just going to burn it for a little bit. This thing is very thick, so it takes a little bit longer to burn than most string that you work with. Once it's burnt, I just tap it lightly. And now I have this nice cone so it won't unthread. I'm going to create the loop. Again, I want this one to be a little bit longer, so I'm going to tie my figure 8. I go one loop around, and then I go through. Boom, now I have that, that figure 8. So I want that loop a little bit bigger than the other one, so I'm going to have it maybe right here. And then again, I'm just going to follow that figure 8 back. So going through, follow, just follow this all the way back. And then tighten it up. Again, this is like a standard rock climbing tie that you normally tie directly into your harness. It's extremely strong, extremely tight, but the great thing about it is that I can undo this knot just as easily as I tied it in. I can undo it. So it makes it, extremely adjustable. It's not permanent, but it will never, ever fail. I think this thing can hold like anything up to like the weight of a car. So there's one knot. I'm just going to compare it to my other one because I really like the size of this. So I'm going to cut this one at 9 feet, but I'm also adding a good amount of feet because for this loop, you need to add on quite a bit more. So the rope in total is about 12 feet, but because I did the loop first, I'm cutting it at 9 feet. Once it's cut, again, I don't want this to get damaged or untie, so I'm going to burn that end. 1, 2, and then it goes back through. Boom, and now I have that double knot. So now I have my main rope, and now I need 2 prusik knots on here to make sure that 1 is on that tether and then 2 is on the actual climbing harness. One of them I might have a little bit longer, one of them I might have a little bit shorter. I play around just to make sure that I like the adjustments and also that string is out of the way. Prusik knots on here, or like I said, you can buy one of these. It's $60. It's a little bit expensive, but this makes the adjustment process really, really easy and just helps with climbing. And then I have the prusik knot on here to adjust into my tether string so I can sit back and hunt. So we're getting into the final component, which is creating really a butt and back harness to make sure that you're really able to like sit in that and not using just solely the climbing harness to navigate the saddle. So again, I'm going to be using this 3-step tree aider. And what I'm going to do basically is create a tether from one end to the other. So I did that same climbing loop that I did on both of those knots, and I put the loop into one of the steps. So I have the loop here into the step. Again, it's going to be adjustable. It's easy to take out, but it basically is impossible to break. This way, I'm also able to use that loop to clip onto my harness to make sure that it's staying out of the way. So then I'm going to take the other end. I'm going to go around and I'm going to create another loop. I'm not cutting this string yet because I don't want to lose any of this rope. But what I do is I put a circle, I circle it around, I go through, and I make that figure 8. This is basically the length of the tether that I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now tie that loop on here, right? So I go through here. These right here, I actually am going to put part of the loop as well, now I think of it, just to make it really, really tight. So it's going through 3 pieces. So we're going to take that and we're going to weave it through all of these, just like so. Like I said, I have extra long string here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a tight loop. Once I'm through all these pieces, I circle back, just like we did with the other knots. So I create that loop, and now I just follow it back. Boom. Here we go, all the way through, just following that string. And there we go. A single tether in front of here, and I'm using this tree harness as my butt and back support. I'm going to end up cutting these off because I don't need this extra material. But now I have this one tether, and you can, of course, create the adjustment, but this is like a good length for me because I want it just high enough that I can attach it to the prusik knot and be able to rotate around without having much in this. If it's too short, it kind of comes up a little bit more, or you're having this. If it's too long, you have to have that tied into the tree really high up there. So this is kind of that perfect length. And then as you can see, it's like on my butt and it's on my back, and I can really like lean into this. Again, it's tied by the climbing knots on both sides, and I'm also able, there's enough of a hook where I'm also able to use carabiners to kind of lock this into my climbing harness to make sure that it doesn't fall. Just to wrap this up, lastly, what needs to happen, and as you can see from this, we need to make sure that the strap, right, this strap is attached to the harness. For this one, I have a carabiner attached to it, so even if I'm hanging just from the tether, I'm not going to be able to come out of the harness as long as this is around my waist. So I have this strapped to it, and then I have it through carabiners just to make sure that the rope is out of the way. Obviously for this one, I'm going to make sure that I have these directly attached to that harness as well. So when I have that rope in front of me, I'm not falling out. And then just the final system, and I'll just show you. And one of the great things about a climbing harness is that you can clip things on. Here is my platform. It's a Hawk platform. I have this permanent carabiner on here that I can attach with these little clips. I have hockey tape around them just to make it really quiet, but I'm able to clip that right onto my harness. I'm really secure and snug. And then finally, I have this climbing pouch. Everything, all of the ropes, everything that I need goes into this pouch, including the platform strap that I can take out. This I like to have on a belt system, so I can either take it off once I'm up the tree, or I can actually rotate it around based on what I want to use it. Sometimes I even stuff things in here as I go, but I can stuff both ropes into this pouch, take it out, and start climbing. Everything's on me, and I have my backpack on and I'm ready to go. So this system, I mean, I basically built it for free. The only thing that I spent money on were a couple carabiners, as well as this platform, which I think was like maybe $65 on Amazon. It's a little bit heavier, but I thought it was a great platform and definitely serves the purpose, especially if you're like me looking to, enter in. But this system that I'm using right now that you see on me, it looks a tad bit goofy, but it works amazingly. I'm going to be using it for the 2025 system. I feel like I'm as efficient of an operator as really anyone, and can get up and down the trees based on everything that I've built for myself. And this is me obviously refining it over a few years of hunting. If you're a new hunter, if you're looking for a way to get in that's relatively cheap, you can find a lot of this rock climbing gear on Marketplace. Just make sure that it's all intact and hunt hard.